Do you remember that one time in class where you were bored out of your damn mind and you glance up at the clock and it's 25 past 11 and your stomach is growling, just waiting for it to be your lunch break? You watched the second hand tick and for a moment it seemed like it was frozen in place until it moved again. And to cope with the time, you may start to do some quick mental math in your head, which may go something like this. Okay, it's 25 past 11 right now. We're just under halfway there. So I would have to sit through the same amount of time now and just a little bit extra. And then finally, lunchtime. But here's the thing, right? Why does time feel so painfully slow in moments like these, yet seem to fly by in others? Because think about it, right? When you're stuck in a boring class, standing in line, or waiting for a buffering video to start playing again, for a moment it feels like time is slowed down. But when you're fully engaged, like playing that favorite game of yours, or laughing with friends, or even just having that deep conversation, for some reason time seems to fly by. Because objectively, the same amount of time can pass, but the way in which we perceive it is completely different. And this is one of those strange human experiences that we can't fully grasp. How our minds distort our understanding of time, playing tricks on us in ways which we don't even understand. And the reason why this sort of warping happens in our minds is because our brains are trying to construct a subjective experience of time by using a combination of processes involving memory, attention, and emotion. Because have you noticed that the older we get, the faster that time seems to pass? It's strange, right? Because hypothetically, say if you were to live up until 90, then you would assume that the halfway mark of that timeline would be 45. And on paper, that makes sense, right? But psychologically, doesn't actually feel that way. Because as we age, time appears to speed up, making our early years much longer in comparison. And this happens for a couple of different reasons. But the number one reason is the way our lives become more structured over time, and our routines turn into predictable patterns, filled with monotony and repetition, which implies that fewer memories are being made. And this is in complete contrast with our experience in childhood, where everything felt new, exciting, and full of discovery, making time feel more stretched and expansive. It's actually the reason why when you were, say, 7 years old, that 1 month of summer holiday felt like it lasted a lifetime. And it's in our best interest to slow down the time. You know, savor this current moment that we've got in time as we're getting older, which is a contributing factor to long-term happiness. But what if, say, we didn't have the concept of time in our minds at all? Would you say that makes us happier? What would that change? In fact, there's certain tribes out there in the world that don't even use the word time, or don't even follow a calendar. Instead, they perceive life as a sequence of events rather than a structured timeline. Even those in prison can lose a sense of time entirely. As days become blurred and without a clear endpoint, time for them can feel like endless suffering. Yet in modern society, our actions and where our time goes is heavily dictated by our calendar, which, when you really think about it, is an arbitrary construct created by humans. And we structure our lives around weekends, holidays, birthdays, and deadlines, but not really questioning why. Because think about it, many of us measure our weeks in Monday to Friday cycles, and then living for the weekend. Because for many people, Monday is a dread and Friday is celebrated. And those 2 days, which we call the weekend, is the only time that people can quote unquote enjoy themselves truly. Even with things like the new year, a completely arbitrary point in time, is often seen by many as a moment for reinvention. You know, the whole new year, new me thing. As if a numerical change in a calendar should dictate how you should act and who you are. But the issue I want to highlight is when we let these dates control us, our emotional well-being is tied to these arbitrary matters. Because when you've tried to embark on a healthier lifestyle, for instance, how many times have you told yourself, oh, it's Friday, I can relax, or it's a Saturday, I can cheat on my diet? But our bodies don't actually recognize the difference between a Monday or a Saturday. And when we set goals, we fall into a similar trap. Because say you had an exam coming up, do you feel like the exam is coming towards you, or do you feel like you're getting closer to the exam? Because the way we perceive time in this case can shape how we experience pressure, urgency, and the amount of progress that we're making towards this particular event. And this ties into the common psychological bias known as the planning fallacy, which is essentially our tendency to underestimate how long a particular task will take, even if we've done similar tasks beforehand. Because sometimes, no matter how organized you are or how much hard work you put in, we can still sometimes fail to hit these deadlines, including those deadlines we set for ourselves, which often prove unrealistic from the start. And it's because us humans have a tendency to assume perfect case scenario and the fact that things should go smoothly, and the fact that we'll have more time in the future. But life is rarely that predictable, as we fail to take into account of unexpected events, distractions, and the natural complexity of the task at hand, which essentially leads to an inaccurate judgment of the amount of time that it will actually take to complete the task. And this often leads to telling ourselves that we don't have enough time. But here's the truth. We've all got the same 24 hours in the day. But the difference isn't necessarily in the amount of time we have, but rather the way in which we prioritize and perceive it. Because most likely, similar to a calendar dictating where a portion of your time should go, there are other variables at play which are pulling you in 10 different directions, and the main one being procrastination. And the key to improving all of this is to improve our ability to track realistic deadlines, and also be aware of where our time is actually going. This way, we're fully aware of what's going on, and we can finally stop feeling guilty for wasting our time and missing those crucial deadlines. And if we fundamentally understand that time is a matter of priority and perception, then the first step is to change our relationship with time itself. And this is by being present in the current moment in time, and breaking free from the rigid calendar days, and setting realistic expectations and deadlines. This way, we've got a control of time rather than time having control on us. I appreciate you watching the video, and if you're interested, you can check out one of the videos that are popping up on screen right now.